I changed the job 9 times throughout my 15-year-long career in UX design. I did it during the crisis of 2009, I did it through many crises I had in my native country, and eventually I landed a job as a principal product designer at Zalando. On the top of that, I do interviews myself for the companies I work with. And while doing interviews myself, I noticed that many fantastic designers fail during the hiring process just because they are not practicing interviews. And it is actually logical because in order to become a great UX designer, you need to practice UX design, not interviews. So in this mini series of YouTube videos, I will tell you everything I know about hiring and going through the interviews, both from my experience as a hiring manager and as a candidate. My name is Ines, subscribe to this channel so not to miss them. In today's video, I'm going to tell you why the hiring process is structured the way it is, what trends we have there at the moment, and why on earth you need to go through so many interviews to get a job as a UX designer. So let's go. The typical modern hiring process for UX designers consists of 4 stages. It's the screening stage, portfolio deep dive, design challenge, and the culture fit stage. And those stages, they are not equal the number of interviews that you will get. They can manifest themselves in just having one interview, it's very rare, but it is still possible, to having like 6-8 interviews in a row. The reason for that is that some companies, they combine the stages to save time, while others, they split the stages or mix them together to increase the number of interviews in the process. And at the end of this video, we are going to talk why, in my opinion, the number of interviews can increase or decrease. But the rule of thumb here is that smaller companies, they tend to have less interview stages than big ones. They can, for example, merge together the screening interview and the portfolio deep dive, or the design challenge and the culture fit. They do this in one go. We will discuss the stages now in depth and you will understand how this could work. So the first stage is the screening stage. The goal of the stage is just to check the candidate's profile. Companies would love to know where a candidate is placed, what their visa requirements, what their salary expectations, and maybe in some cases how well they speak English. And they also need to explain the hiring process to a candidate. This is the stage that the most small companies do on the background without you knowing it exists as a candidate. But if you are applying to a big tech company, you will probably have an initial conversation with a recruiter. And in this interview, a recruiter will try to understand what chances do you have to get a job in this particular company, will do all those checks of how well do you speak English, what are your salary expectations, and will explain to you what awaits you in the hiring process. There are also some peculiar ways of how this stage can be organized. Some companies, they ask candidates to create a video about why they are the best fit for the companies, or to fill out a survey. But luckily in big tech, it is not considered to be the best practice, because why on earth a candidate for a UX design position should also record a professional video of themselves. Talking to the camera is not natural for most people, so luckily companies understand that as well. And in my opinion, it does not necessarily tell you that this is a bad company with bad practices that does not care about the employees. It could be that they are just badly consulted and they don't know how to hire UX designers, although the team might be a great team, and I would hold up some judgments before I meet the actual team. Let's go to the next stage, and this is the portfolio deep dive. And the reason why companies need this stage and they cannot just judge the candidate from their portfolio is because UI design could be easily assessed visually. But the UX design is a team exercise. And we need to understand the whole context. We need to ask you questions about how did you perform on a team in order for us to understand your role and input. Because it could easily happen if you, for example, have a strong PM working alongside you and the PM handholds all your decisions, then the final result will be great. But we want to also know the details with your relationship with this PM to understand What was your area of impact on a project? Also, many UX designers that I coach on UX portfolios, we do that regularly every month, basically in the UX Club. The link will be down below, by the way. But they are worried about placing tangible KPIs and some numbers as a result to justify that they did a great job with the projects. But because UX design is a team exercise and it is very dependent on the context and on the team and on the company goals, on the sizes, on the resources, the numbers you improved with your previous projects are not a guarantee of a success in the next company. The guarantee of success for UX designers is how they dealt with challenges and obstacles in their previous job. That's why we need to know the story about those obstacles and how you overcame them. So if you are worried about not having any KPIs at the end of your case studies, you can give yourself some slack and focus on the coherent storytelling. In the next videos of this mini course, I will tell you more about how to prepare for each stage, so don't worry now. In this video, we only have the overview. But subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss the next video. The next stage is the design challenge. Why companies have the design challenge if they just have heard the portfolio deep dive and they have heard the story about how a person overcame a certain challenge? So why do they give another challenge to a person? The reason for that is that there are many good storytellers and we all spice up our stories from the previous job, and this is completely normal. But hiring managers, they also know about that, and also they want to give a challenge that will resemble the work that you will be doing in this particular company. In this way, we can confirm your story, we can see how you overcome the challenges that appear in front of you without you having a long time to think about them and to prepare your story. There are two types how the design challenge can be conducted. It is a take-home design challenge and a face-to-face interview. The face-to-face interview saves a lot of time because it's only 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and you are done. The take-home design challenge can take you 8-16 hours, and it is a long time commitment. So I personally prefer when I have a face-to-face design challenge, and this is how we organize the hiring process in my team as well. But if you are a junior UX designer, it is actually more beneficial for you to have a take-home design challenge because your design knowledge might not be that solid yet and you might not have the right answer right away. But if you will think about the problem for a longer period of time, you for sure will be able to give the better answer. So it's not necessarily bad if you get a take-home design challenge. In some cases, consider it to be an advantage. Again, in the next videos, we are going to talk about how to deal with the design challenges, both take-home and face-to-face. The next phase is the culture fit. And on this phase, the team is interested how well you will fit this particular environment. Yes, you might be a great designer, but eventually you might not go along with the team values and just with the characters that they have there. So hiring managers make sure that you have some time to meet the team or to meet at least some people from the team in order for you to understand what are you signing up for and for them to make a decision if they want to work with you. This stage is very unpredictable in how it will be organized. Sometimes it's just one interview with the team. In some cases, they schedule you in multiple interviews with stakeholders and with some team members, and it can also be spread across different stages where different people interview you and they also try to get an impression of who you are as a person. But I actually believe that it is more beneficial when you have a separate interview schedule because this is where you can talk about non-design related stuff and get to know each other better. We are going to have other videos where we are going to deep dive in the preparation practices and everything that is related to it. But if you can't wait until the next video because you have maybe job interviews lined up already, then go to the video description and grab the free job interviews preparation checklist that I personally use before every interview to make sure I am prepared and I am doing my best. By downloading this checklist, you will be added to the waitlist for my course, Job Interviews for UX Designers. If you don't want to be in this waitlist, then you can unsubscribe anytime. Now let's talk about why do we have so many stages. I actually believe that there is a good reason for that and a bad reason for that. The good sets of reasons for that is that we really want to give a person a taste of a job they are signing up for. The longer we are in the contact with the candidate, the more chances we have to know them better and they have to know us better. And for the countries where it is hard to fire a candidate, it makes sense because then we have more confidence in the candidate that we hire. These are the good reasons that I know from being a hiring manager. But as I used to be a candidate myself multiple times, I can't stop wondering that if there are some bad reasons for that. And sometimes I suspect that if the hiring process takes longer than necessary, then maybe a hiring manager cannot take a decision. And I understand how important it is and how heavy is the burden and the responsibility to hire the right fit for the team, because bad hiring decisions cost a lot, both to the team and to the company. But there should be a limit until when a hiring manager has all the information to take a decision. And when the hiring process takes longer than that, I might get suspicious. The other suspicion that I have that some companies, they prolong the hiring process in order for you as a candidate to perceive this job offering as precious. And if you consider something to be precious and very well earned, you will not negotiate, you will not question the conditions of the offer. I might be overly suspicious about that, but sometimes I really dealt with hiring processes with 10 or more stages, and in my opinion, this is unacceptable. I think a good hiring process should take you no more than 5 interviews. Even 5 I would consider to be too much. 4 is, in my opinion, a golden standard. In some cases, we can squeeze it up to having just 3. But what I also wanted to add to this video is my understanding of the trends. Although we are constantly talking about how long is the hiring process, companies are actually trying to shorten it. Because right now, companies, they don't have the luxury of letting their current employees to do the hiring and to spend so much time on this because the resources are limited. We are not in the flourishing COVID times anymore in tech, and we are being very mindful about the resources that we already have. And hiring takes a lot of time for the internal team as well, not only for the candidate. There are 2 examples from the recent hiring stories of my students from the UX Club. The first story is when the company has shortened the screening process. That was the big company, but they cut the interview with the recruiter, and instead of that, they asked some questions about the visa status and the salary expectations through email, and they sent to the candidate some slides to go through with the explanation about how the hiring process is structured. The next example is the new format of the design challenge that is gaining popularity. Previously, the most common format of the face-to-face design challenge was the whiteboard challenge, where you are given a problem and together with the hiring manager or with an interviewer, you are solving this problem and you are explaining your thought process. Right now, the new format that the interview is taking you 1 hour. In the beginning, they explain to you the problem and then they give you 30 minutes to work on this problem alone, to gather your thoughts, to maybe create some mind maps, and then the interviewer joins in and you discuss the solution. That saves interviewers sometimes because they are effectively present on an interview just for 30 minutes or so, in comparison for them to be there for the full hour or for the full 90 minutes in the classical whiteboard challenge. This format has become so popular in tech that I added it as a separate workshop in my upcoming course about the job interviews for UX designers. Previously, we had 1 workshop about the classical interview challenge. Now we have 2 with the classical and the new one. But also don't worry, in the next videos on this channel, I'm going to talk extensively about how to prepare to design challenges and what hiring managers expect from you. And that was it for today. I hope now you know how the hiring process is structured, what trends do we have there, and why we have so many interviews for UX designers. And if you like this video and you want to master job interviews, then hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell. This way you will get a notification when the new video comes out. And if you are interested in my upcoming course, Job Interviews for UX Designers, then check the link in the video description and join the waitlist. You will get the free job interview preparation checklist as a present. I hope that was helpful and I see you next time.